Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Good afternoon, Stewart, Martin County, and the world at large. It's Frank Mezzapel sitting in for the students that are on summer hiatus. But we do have a good youth and government show for you today, so please stay tuned for that. Today is June the 20th, and on this day in history, the Great Seal of the United States was created. The Great Seal of the United States, which you'll find on the back of every $1 bill, is our nation's official emblem. It was adopted on this date on June 20th, 1782. Its full symbol that has specific meanings about values the founders wanted to pass on to each generation. And also on this day in history, West Virginia becomes the 35th state. And during the Spanish-American War, the U.S. cruiser Charleston captures the island of Guam. And in 1948, on this date, the Ed Sullivan Show, originally called The Toast of the Town, debuted. And lastly, in 1963, on this date, the U.S. and the USSR agreed to install a telephone hotline between the two superpower leaders. And that's what took place on this date in history. Oh, one other thing, in 1975 on this date, the summer sensation movie Jaws was released. So there you go. So now let's go back to our show already in progress.
Hello, hope you guys are having a wonderful Thursday evening. My name is John, and I'm back with Frank and Jamie.
Righto.
Righto,
Yep.
indeed.
In the house.
In the house. How have you all been?
Good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. Every day
Anything
my feet at
exciting?
the floor, it's a good day.
Mhm.
Right?
Indeed it is.
Yes. I vote yes for that.
Heard some thunder outside.
Yes, it's supposed to start about 4:00 today. So we see whenever they tell us that, it always seems to be about an hour later. So that makes sense. That
Mhm.
actually tracks with my theory of the weather. So yes, yeah, it's going to be that kind of ruckus between now and past the dinner hour, I would think, for a while yet.
I'm going out later tonight. Have
Oh.
to avoid that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, you never know. There might be a break in the action.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you have the radar on your radar app on your phone, as most people do. So,
yep.
Very useful.
so lots of interesting things going on. You want to talk about Mar-a-Lago? What's going on?
Talked a little bit about that last week.
Well,
though.
yes, this week. But wait, there's more.
There's more.
So the judge, there's like a big thing today. The magistrate judge here in Florida that signed the warrant order for the search had a meeting today with the representatives from the Trump organization as well as from the DOJ, and to talk about unsealing, because there were many organizations, mostly in the news media, that filed suit to release the affidavit. So that and the president signed on to that suit as well. The former president, he wished the all the information be unredacted, unsealed, and released to the public. And government says, yeah, we're okay with releasing some of it.
Right.
So the way it's ended up, the way I understand it, is the judge is now asking for the DOJ to submit what the redacted version would look like. He said that I think it's appropriate to unseal some of it and let the public look, the right to know and that sort of thing. But sources, methods, and those sort of things, the DOJ says we have an ongoing investigation, and this would jeopardize that, is their argument. And so therefore there'll be some redactions. So he's going to give them, I guess, about a week to get that organized, submit that to him, and everybody can agree to that. That would be released. But then there may be further steps to kind of slow things down before that does get released. But anyways, it seems to be inching towards that direction. But my guess is it'll never get fully unredacted. It'll always.
It'll take like 50 years or so.
Wait, yeah. Speaking of which, back in, how many years ago was it? It was several decades, many, many years ago. There was, when they first developed this idea about secrecy for government secrets and all that sort of
Right.
thing. One of the things they put under that umbrella of secrecy was the formula for making disappearing ink. That was supposed to be a secret.
Really?
And so they, on the year, I think not that many years ago, just a few years ago, that was unsealed and released to the public. And the government says, hey, 100 years later, hey, good on us. It's like, really? We already know how to make that. You can Google how to make disappearing ink. And so there's just so many things. So I tell you this because there are so many things that are labeled secret, top secret, or it can't be shared. And they're really common stuff that people already know. So a lot of that stuff you got to take with a grain of salt. A heavy
Interesting.
grain of salt. Yes. Okay. Anyways, that's my 2 cents worth.
Wow. Do you want to get into space?
We can do that. Let's see if we can cue up the. You have something also on space, Jamie? Perhaps, right?
Almost.
Okay. Maybe. No, maybe not. Okay. Cue up the space report. Go ahead, John. We'll exit with the audio.
Okay.
How's that?
So this one I found quite interesting. So NASA, I don't know how they're funding this to this extent. So it's $100,000 and it's for a UFO study. And they're supposedly bringing in the top nationwide, entire world experts to analyze how UFOs work and whatnot, specific to their own fields and whatnot, and develop systeming to track UFOs and whatnot. But on that budget, it's
$100,000.
Yeah, from the government.
Yeah. So they probably have some guy in a basement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, on his lunch break.
Now wait till we find out it's a Nobel Peace Prize winner or something. It's just.
I don't know. That sounds pretty sketchy.
It does indeed.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, NASA has their unveiling for the Artemis 3.
Yes, you saw it roll out to the pad?
Yeah.
There's a live stream video looking at that rocket even as we speak.
I mean, it's 2 months till it launches, right?
Right. It is taller than the Saturn V and twice as powerful.
Wow.
Artemis 1 is about to launch.
That's right. Yeah.
And me and Rachel were actually thinking of going to that and seeing it because she's never been to launch and, she's so space oriented and stuff like that. So,
yes.
Yeah.
It's worthwhile. I will tell you from my own personal experience, I went to see the last 2 Apollo launches and they were incredible. Apollo 16 was pretty memorable. I really enjoyed that. So I wanted to come back for Apollo 17, which was a nighttime launch. Those are visual spectaculars you'd never want to miss a nighttime launch, especially a moon launch, because bigger rocket, more power, right? So so that was so I came back. Second time I drove back with my SLR camera and a telescope, so I could take pictures through the telescope.
Oh, smart.
So I did that. Took the family station wagon and then the rest of the family piled in. So we had an impromptu family vacation. It was wonderful. Wow. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Though.
Right? Can you imagine 6 people in a family station wagon?
Oh, no.
With all
the telescope and cameras.
Yeah, right. And luggage. Don't forget luggage for 6. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Full car.
Yes. It was.
Fuller car.
It was a very full vehicle. Fortunately, we did have air conditioning, so that made it.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, that made it doable.
Very dense.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to throw out an idea that like something I saw on the news. Just like, how do you feel about this forensic spray? So the entire concept, it's a company called Smart Water, and they essentially give you a packet when you order it, and you can apply it onto like like doorknobs, like pretty much anywhere. I'm guessing probably
Any
like
touch surface.
any
right?
touch surface,
Okay.
and then you can rig traps and whatnot, and it'll spray. You can put it on your bikes and
Mhm.
whatnot.
And then
Can
you can lift fingerprints.
Yeah, and it'll attach to the person for like about 6 weeks or so. It's a long time, and then just like, how do you feel about that?
About
Just
so
like its use and implementation, like police.
so it's like a tracking device.
It's kind of like a tracking. So the police, I believe it was like West Yorkshire in the UK, were using
Ah.
as kind of like a forensic fingerprint. So if like you reported a
Ah.
crime, they could just like ultraviolet scan, and then the person would come up with it on them.
Right. Yeah, I think that. So to answer your question, I think that's okay as long as it's used with the proper legal authority, with the proper justification. Sure.
Right.
But for the general public to use, probably not a good plan.
I was wondering
Yeah.
how would that play out in like kind of like the US
Well, this goes back to what we were talking about, how we opened the show, secrets, right?
secrets.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Once that formula gets out, and you know it will, then whatever edge the government agencies would have in using that would be lost, because it'd be a countermeasure that would be developed, obviously.
That's true.
So
Yeah. And then you create like solutions that could get it off your finger, and
right, yeah. Anything.
Or
General rule of thumb is anything that can be done could be undone, especially if chemistry is involved.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's
So,
always a workaround.
yeah, good
Yeah.
idea, but then we have to think about obviously what could happen.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we actually have our first YIG meeting this year next Tuesday
Nice.
at the Y. So
Okay.
hopefully we could get the word out about the radio show and get more recruits.
Good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
working on doing that.
Working
And then
on
I
that.
get the other high schools involved too. Would be
Mhm.
nice. Yes.
So is it all the high schools around here?
All the
Or-
high schools around here do YIG.
Like, so okay, so they're going to
Martin,
be in the Y.
Jensen. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Not entirely.
Okay. So yeah,
We'll see.
that'll be interesting. That'll be fun.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Yeah. The more the merrier.
The
Right?
more the
Oh,
merrier.
yeah.
Do you have any space news?
Other than Artemis, not really. However, do you have anything else or
I have some interesting stuff about plants.
about plants?
Mhm.
All right, you want to do that?
Okay, so I was doing a bit of research, and this was popping up on the BBC, so I did a little bit more research. So the entire like photosynthesis, we heard about it since like elementary, how
Mhm.
like a plant creates energy and whatnot. So what was happening was scientists were trying to find ways to make it like more like chemically sound and like more efficient. So some people were trying to, like, the one that succeeded and the one I'm talking about is, instead of like thinking about it chemically, they're analyzing its like timing. So when this especially like pertains to like Florida, when a plant gets like hyper hot, it kind of shuts down and tries to like vent itself out and
Hmm.
like essentially vapor, and then have all like the heat drift off it during when it's like noon and whatnot. And it can take, according to what I heard, several minutes to like hours for it to like go back into photosynthesis mode.
Hmm.
Hard word.
Yeah.
So what they were doing was they're genetically modifying them to make it have like a shorter time period that it
Breathe
would
off.
switch back in.
Hmm.
So a
Interesting.
couple minutes or so. And then what happened was it increased the product rate about 20%. So overall, it's a fairly interesting thing.
Yeah, I think I may have sent this one to Jamie, perhaps you as well, but there is
I did
an
not see that.
article that I sent out about taking the CO2 out of the air, utilizing the oceans.
The carbon
oceans-
sinks.
The carbon sink. So there's a plant or some sort of
Seagrass.
microorganism that they want to develop to suck the carbon out of the air and then sink it into the it create more density of carbon in the water. There already is the water already is 70% of the Earth's surface,
That's
Mhm.
true.
and a lot of the carbon gets absorbed into the oceans already. So all they're doing, what they're talking about doing, is increasing the saturation, even if it's a small percentage, because it's such a large portion of the Earth. It's a big deal.
That is true, but then that raises the question because some fish are like hypersensitive to pH.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know if it changes the pH, the solubility. It's,
No, because carbon is acidic. It makes the oceans more acidic, which would then turn them.
again, there's probably a range.
There is a range,
Yeah.
but it's interesting.
It is an interesting idea.
That is an interesting idea, though. Wow.
Yeah, and it probably could happen. You can reverse if you believe that there's too much carbon in our world and we need to get rid of it. That would be a quick and easy way to do it. More efficiently than anything else we've been able to come up with.
Well, I mean, another one would just be stop deforestation. but
Another way too would be to get China to stop utilizing coal. Right now, China is outperforming all the other industrial countries combined in producing CO2s.
We can't control it on land, so we give it to the fish, pretty much.
Mhm. Well, but what I'm just saying is, if we can't control it, what other people are doing about
That's
it,
true.
but we can at least control, the air somewhat. Find another method to at least suck the carbon out of the air. Well, or not deforest the.
Well, I mean, they literally house carbon, but
Right,
so
right. They do. They do.
yeah, it's very interesting though. It's
Yeah.
a fragile ecosystem, but
It is. It's fascinating.
it is fascinating.
Mhm.
Okay. Other than that, I have some other stuff.
Okay.
So this goes back to like 20-ish years, is like what I heard. So like opioid crisis, this was like early 90s, 50s, I guess, sort of ordeal. The company started with an S. So this is kind of like a more modern version of that, in my opinion.
Mm.
Is essentially $650 million in Ohio was due to a lawsuit to Walgreens and CVS for opioid. So what happened was in two towns, it kind of went unregulated. So it went to like 400 opioids per person within like 2019 to 2022, which is an insane amount. So yeah, it is a insane amount just for that time period.
Right.
So they were getting charged on that. But I want to kind of like reel this back
Okay.
to the other ones. I know this was like a big problems with like the early like 50s, I believe it was, with which one I'm talking about?
No, keep going.
What? Oh my God. Okay. I was trying to relate this back to you.
Okay.
So essentially there was a giant company within like the 50s.
Mhm.
It was the same-ish scenario, but I have a question
Yes.
about this. So they get sued, right?
Right.
But they have insurance.
Well, yeah. I mean,
So in turn,
major
it's not
corpora-
really affecting them.
It affects their bottom line. What a lot of companies do, and a lot of times some companies are self-insured if they're big enough. They can, because sometimes, especially as high-risk commodities,
Right.
you might be. That's why the rates might be what they charge in order to justify manufacturer production and so on and so forth. The so yeah, I don't know. I don't know where we're going
Like,
with this.
I'm just asking,
Oh.
like, what is your approach with that? Because I'm just like trying to rationalize that. How are they being punished if you get like?
Oh, well, so they just gonna raise the price.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Consumers always pay. So whatever bill you levy, whether rightfully or not, against a company, the people who buy the services or products that company provides are going to ultimately carry the bill.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It
No solution.
Well, I mean, if you're punitive enough with your fines, you can force a company out of business.
Right.
That's the other option.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but if you're allowing them to continue business, you just want to spank them around a little bit.
Because I mean, like, just a couple $1,000,000 isn't enough for like CVS and Walgreens to actually take a step back.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like a lot, but at the
is,
same time, they're like a multi-billion
right.
international
Right,
organization.
and they
so
have
it's
stockholders, and they have I'm sure they would just pay the whatever the fines are.
it's like
and-
over
and
the
it's
course of 15 years as well. It's
Mhm.
not really impacting them.
right, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. You have to. So was there you have to decide if there's criminal intent or just bad business judgment and that sort of thing. That's whole different measures too. So if there was no criminal intent and they just maybe just poor business judgment,
That would be extremely poor.
yes, I agree. Yeah, but anyways, that's like. So it depends on who's bringing about the lawsuits and who's, how that, there's so many different ways that can be approached. You can take away their ability to sell pharmaceuticals. That would hurt them.
That'd extremely hurt them.
Close them. Yeah.
That would close them.
Yes. So again, it's just, what are you trying to do? I think they probably trying to get them to agree that, okay, what we did was, incorrect. And we'll pay some fines, which will cover maybe the government's legal expense. And and then they're moving on.
Bringing it back to China a little bit.
Yes.
I was learning in my AP World History class that around 600 to 900, I think it was BC or something around that era, the Chinese were the first to create fireworks, and
Yes.
they've always been
Mhm.
very like oriented and stuff.
Mhm.
And it's funny because they didn't use it for violence at first because they didn't. I mean, they didn't know what it is.
Right.
It was just like fireworks, and then they
Well,
realized that you could do that.
gunpowder.
And,
Yeah.
gunpowder with all these elements and stuff. So
Mhm,
learning
mhm.
about that, that's pretty cool.
You know what the ingredients are for gunpowder?
No, I do not.
I think it's sulfur,
Sulfur.
right?
Sulfur, yeah. Okay, I
and
have it here.
carbon, like charcoal,
Right.
Yes.
and saltpeter.
Interesting.
And we've got a caller on our newsmaker line. Go ahead, caller. Hello. Hello. You're on the air.
Hi, this is regarding the new Medicare Advantage.
Okay, so we got a call.
Got a scam call. Okay.
I love it. All right. Yeah, we get that.
Well, that's the first.
Yeah,
Wow.
it happens. Generally, I get them before we go on air.
It's about Medicare. It's not about car insurance. That is a surprise.
Right?
It's a new one.
Well, yeah, this would be probably the best environment to send out,
Yeah.
phone.
would.
You would probably, if you send out 10 phone calls, 7 of which will land at somebody that would, apply to.
It's true.
Right.
Okay, that's an
Hmm.
interesting topic, like businessman's mentality, the entire like aspect of actually like going door to door
Yeah.
salesman.
Right.
That's always interests me because like I hear like statistics about it, like out of like every like 1,000 or so, like one will definitely bite, but then out of that 1,000, you have to approach like 1,000 more before one bites again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very tough business.
It is a very tough business.
Yeah, I had a retail shop and I sold blinds back in the 80s, right?
Mhm.
Verticals, mini blinds, pleated shades, woven woods. And so I had it back then, people would advertise in the yellow pages, right?
Yellow pages.
Right.
Oh,
It's a
yeah,
phone
I know
book.
the
Oh,
phone
yeah,
book.
okay.
Yep. Those
And
gigantic things.
right. And so that's how you got your message out. And it was, pretty expensive, but I would get a lot of phone calls.
Mhm.
And out of I would make maybe out of every 3 business calls I'd make, I would land a sale. So 1 out of every 3. So not
It's
a
pretty good.
Not
bad
bad odds.
statistical, average. So being the individual that I am, if I got a nice visit out of it, but I didn't get a sale, I said, okay, I know the next one likely will be my sale, and that's the way I just approached it, and it always worked out very well.
So
Yeah.
we're
And then I hired a lady, a very, very nice lady, who was very savvy, very good salesperson. And I was getting busy in the shop, and it was difficult for me to go out. And I would send her out. And she was, out of every two, she would get one. So she was 1/3 better than me, I was very, very happy about that.
So where were you?
Where was I? I was in the shop working.
Were you around here?
Yeah.
We're next door. I was right.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
local.
Yeah.
Still learning.
Yeah, but that was. I mean, I had 5 employees, so I was very busy, and phone was always ringing. There was always customers on the floor, people to take care of, service in some manner. So whether it's paint, wallpaper, blinds, sometimes people would come in from the yellow pages and want to do look at the samples and that sort of thing, and maybe schedule an appointment. Those were always okay. So that would be a sale. That was some lightning. Did you see that? You
Yep.
probably
The
I
lights
heard it.
flickered a little bit.
a little crackle in our headphones.
Oh,
there we
hear
go.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah. So yeah, the life of a retailer. But yeah, I thought about the people that were traveling salesmen that would do it door to door and sell everything from laundry soap to brushes. There was a company called the Fuller Brush Company, and they would go door to door and sell household um, uh, commodities that the people could use in their home for cleaning their home. Like scrub brushes or dusting brushes or just different accoutrements
It's a
for
different culture.
yeah, and then vacuum cleaners, door to door sales for that, and yeah,
Wow.
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It's a culture shock from today because nobody really approaches anybody at all.
right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people were pretty approachable back then. It was kind of neat. People would come in and they'd knock on your door, and if you weren't doing anything other than watching, TV,
Would you invite them in?
people would invite them in, maybe make them a cup of tea or coffee, whatever is appropriate, and if they're interested enough, they would listen to their pitch and either make a purchase or send them on their way. Worst case scenario is if you're a salesperson, at least you got a cookie and some
Some-
tea out of the deal. But
Wow.
yeah, that's a hard life. That's a very difficult life.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
No, the mentality always amazed me. You have to have a good will
You have to be positive. You have
and
to
consistently.
and share that positivity. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes aggressive.
Well, aggressive in a yes,
In a
but
kind manner, yes.
you have to walk that fine line, because aggressive. If you're too aggressive, you turn people off.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So you have
Very
to
quick.
be approachable, friendly, and in sales, I would tell people, you make friends and then you make business,
It's a good motto.
right?
It's a really good motto.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Jumping off of that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Mm.
So this was another interesting thing that I saw. So I believe it was like 2 months ago we were talking about China and TikTok and then like handing over of like user data and whatnot. So I don't know how I feel about this, but I mean it's China, so I guess. So yeah, I know it's
Yeah.
it
Pick your
confuses
poison,
me.
right?
Yeah, but at the same time, it makes sense. So what's happening is their major platforms like Alibaba, TikTok, and Tencent. Like TikTok, it's a different one. It's called ByteDance. I'm guessing it's the Chinese variant of TikTok. So what they're doing is, so platforms usually have algorithms for like going after like users and whatnot. What they're doing is essentially merging all that data into a collective whole and giving it to the government to handle. So it's fishy, definitely fishy, under the pretense it won't get misused. And it's supposed to be updated monthly.
Trust me, I won't
Weekly.
misuse it. Yeah, trust me.
And
Yeah.
it's, you know, just why? Why? You know?
So yeah, and believe me, your phones do listen to you,
Oh, no, I know.
even when you're not, because I have had conversations, and then on my news feed, I find ads for things that I've been talking about.
Mhm.
Yep.
You,
And
you too. You find that
oh
to
yeah,
be true,
on
right?
YouTube, I was talking about some scam, and then the next thing recommended on my YouTube was how to not get scammed, and I'm like, wow, that's good. That is convenient. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, a
It's
little
like,
too convenient, but yeah.
yeah.
Wow, I know. So the old ad,
And that was the first time that I realized, like, whoa,
right.
that is scary.
Yes,
It's quite
yes.
scary.
And that's why Facebook changed its name to Meta.
Yeah, I mean, they were trying to get rid of that public stigma against them as well.
Well, but Meta, I mean, actually, it's really in your face because it's all about metadata. That's what we're talking about here.
And then the metaverse,
Yes,
which
Oh, yeah.
is
right. Wow. Yes,
wow, indeed.
right.
Yep.
Okay, so here we go.
Living life.
We get Rocky
And
now,
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
again.
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
Wrong hat.
I take a 7.5.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Took that last year. Hello.
And what did we take last year?
Computer science.
Yes.
Yes. That was an interesting class.
And I'm glad you're glad you got it under your belt.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
glad I got them under my belt.
Right.
Passed with all A's in that class.
Nice. Of
Very
course,
good,
we
very
know
good.
that.
Talking about how I might have to take over the technician spot for next week, but sadly, it does not run on JavaScript.
It does not. Yeah, true. So, but it's all right. Some training may be required, but not much.
A little bit in the physical realm. Oh my God. Okay, so that was one of the weirdest things ever. So I was taking an AP class for computer science, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the thing that you think of when you hear computer? You think of the physical object, right? Like an
Mhm.
actual computer. Do you know what they made us do? So at the end of the year for our exam, they made us physically write out the code on a piece of paper,
Wow. Nice.
not in a computer, which you would think would be
Oh,
standard.
Yeah.
So it's like
So-
how, why, what, when, why, and then all the other AP exams are on computer.
Right. But that's just so that your hand and brain and
Oh yeah,
see, touch, feel. Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
It's all about see it, say it, do it, and then it's committed to memory. When
I'm
they
just
have-
saying.
science has proven
I
that
know.
when you write things down, you retain more of that information than if you don't.
Yep, that's what all our teachers say. and
Yes.
Yes, right on.
Yep.
It's still one of the most insane experiences I've had. Just why? Every other AP class, normal. That class, no.
No.
That'd be normal.
I love taking the AP Human Geography exam. I enjoyed it so much.
Really?
Yes, I did.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
because one, I pretty much knew everything, because I studied, and it just felt good to have the knowledge to be able to score very well on the test. And in 1 year, because I love writing, I enjoyed the FSA, which is Florida Standardized Assessment, and it was writing, and just
Right in your wheelhouse. Yeah.
yeah, and my hand never stopped moving, or my fingers never stopped moving on that test. It was just it just came so naturally to me. So I like writing. Yeah, it was great.
Cool.
This
I
sounds
know.
inspirational.
My hands never
John's not buying it.
No, I'll buy it. That's
Thank
not me
you.
though.
All right. So there's going to be a rocket launch to image the supernova remnant.
Oh,
A remnant of a supernova.
They're going to launch a rocket. Northwestern University astrophysics team is aiming for the stars. Well, actually, a dead star, and they want to image a star that went supernova. That would be amazing.
That would be
That would
amazing. I
be.
mean, recently we just got the quasar one as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Who would have thought it was just a beam of light
Right.
yeah.
and from a
That's all
black
I
hole?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Neat stuff.
What do you think we would discover from that, though? I think we would discover more of its like functionalism.
Yes. I think when
Wow.
that's we're listening to
no.
some rocking and rolling outside.
Yeah.
So
Thunder.
I think when these stars explode, I think they are like broadcasting seeds for life.
Really?
I see it as Johnny Appleseed of the universe. Because they'll throw out matter and things that perhaps would do well seeding somewhere else as they travel through space and land on another planet. There might be an ingredient there that planet
Interesting.
could wander
Okay.
and use. So I see that, and I think that explains a lot about asteroids. What are they? Are they remnants of, planets that didn't form,
Okay.
or are they particles or just clumps of things that from the formation of the universe?
Wow.
That was a big
That
one.
was a good one.
Really close too.
Yeah. A little crackle in the headsets there. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was NASA as well. They're trying to track down like some supergiants and whatnot to like identify minerals and whatnot for like possible future use. I believe it was Jupiter and pretty much any other gas giant in our system
Mhm.
have like an abundance of like what we consider to be rare gems, which in actuality, if you take a grand look at our
Right.
galaxy, it's pretty common, but
There is
rare on Earth.
a item in the Oort cloud, I think, and it's in the asteroid belt, right? And it is a big rock composed mostly of solid gold.
Wow.
Yes, it's
Wow.
worth like I don't know how many trillion, right? It's just stupid,
And then pair inflation with that.
right? But originally they were going to plan a robotic mission to go there to see if they can retrieve it.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'll take it. I'll take some.
Right. So, but they decided not to. I think that's pretty interesting too. Decided to leave it alone.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some really weird planets. Like we could just talk about that. I mean,
Oh yeah.
like I mean, there's like the one that I remember that was really memorable was one that was essentially a planet that constantly rains glass.
Yep.
Glass,
You know?
silicon.
No, just
Silicon.
like pure glass.
Yeah.
constantly. The other one was like, it was essentially oceans galore, but if you went too deep, you would never be able to come back up due to pressure. It's like gel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
The universe is scary, but
I think the
Certainly.
coolest thing about our solar system is Jupiter. Rather than landing on Jupiter, they were talking about staying in the clouds.
Well, you can't land on Jupiter, can you?
No,
Because it's a
well-
gas giant.
Right. But if you get into a certain elevation above the clouds, you'd be at pretty close to 1 g Earth gravity,
right.
Mhm.
and which would be pretty cool. And and the pressure would be just about right. But you'd have to have a spaceship that would just stay in the clouds,
Wow.
never land.
Scary.
Like helicopter or something. I
Well,
guess.
yeah, because it's like the space station, it orbits the Earth, so it
Constant.
just stay in a certain attitude position at that elevation, which I think is pretty amazing, really.
Okay. Another question. Are there any space theories that kind of weird you out or anything or no?
Weird me out.
Okay.
Well, I think we have one of them is recently. I think they discovered that if you are on the moon,
Right.
and you hide in the shadow, it's a temperature because the temperatures are pretty extreme on the moon, right?
Right.
It's either like plus
face the sun and you
200, 240 degrees or minus 240, right?
Wow.
It's just except for if you're in a big rock shadow, it's about 62 degrees.
Okay. Pretty average.
So the theory is that they want to put astronauts in a situation so that if they're in a position where they can't get back and they don't want to use up their life support system,
Right.
fighting the extreme
Mhm.
temperatures, that would be a good place for them to hide out while they're waiting for a vehicle to come to get them.
62 degrees in space, though.
Yeah. Well, you're on the moon.
Yeah, I know. You're on the moon.
You're not really in
Just
space.
compare that
Yeah.
situation. You're on the moon, 62 degrees in the shadow.
Isn't that wild? They say it's like a balmy living in San Francisco, which is about right. That's their ambient temperature
And
on
then you're
average.
just looking into space.
Yeah.
See the sun.
right.
That would be pretty wild,
Be
right?
pretty wild, but pretty scary.
Yeah. But
Wow.
to me, that's kind of that's a weird.
That'd be a weird
that is just
situation.
weird.
The
Wow.
images.
Who would
from
have
that.
thought that? That's just something
62 degrees in space.
somebody decided to really study that and come up with
And
that
then, I mean,
idea.
James Webb, it can get pretty much still due to the freezing temperature. Like its molecules can get still pretty much due to the freezing temperatures as well in space.
Right.
So
Did
just
you
the
see that?
contrast.
Did you see the 1-minute video they did on James Webb looking back?
I did see that.
That was a beautiful 1-minute video.
It's like ingenuity and curiosity, but except at a much higher and more definitive level.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, extremely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Very impressive as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Frank, did you see that Doodle for Google contest?
Do tell. Tell me about Doodle for Google.
So it's an annual competition for
Right.
all the states.
Yeah.
And they compete or they create an image. The theme this year was called "I Care for Myself" by, and then you finish the rest of the sentence.
Okay.
And you're supposed to create an image that represents whatever the finish of your sentence is. And actually, the winner for in Florida was actually a student in, I believe, it was Martin County High School.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, very close. Yes.
Wow.
Mhm.
We should have them on the air. You should invite them in.
Why not?
I mean, that'd be very interesting.
Yeah. That'd be a great conversation.
So it was $30,000 for scholarships, and then
Nice.
$50,000 to some tech program that they have at their school,
Mhm.
or like a computer lab. Just $50,000 from Google.
Nice.
Yes. She was
So Martin County is going ka-ching.
Oh yes. Oh my goodness, and they already have such a big school. We need some of that.
Right?
Oh, South Fork.
Well, South Fork, now they did an addition on South
We're
Fork.
getting a gym, which I'm kind of questioning. One, we already have a gym.
It's old and crusty and musty.
What was it? 19,
it's
well,
still
man,
a gym.
well, 1984.
Well, I mean, I heard it was warping as well. So I mean,
Oh yeah,
yeah. So I
'Cause-
mean, it's about time.
it
You're
is
talking
about
the-
time.
you're talking about the gym floor.
Yep. Like basketball, like wise, like I think it's like out of regulations or something. It's like been warping
It
for a
is
bit.
so difficult, especially in this environment too. It's a
Yeah.
very difficult environment, and you have to use a very special coatings on the gym floor. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's really amazing technology. Just in they use tongue oil. It's TUNG.
Mhm.
It's from the tongue nut. It's an Asian nut,
Mhm.
and if you squeeze that nut, you get this light oil, which is incredibly durable, very hard, very clear. It's kind of an orangey clear, but yeah, tongue oil.
This is like one
You
of,
can buy that over the shelf, but it's like stupid money for like a small pint container. But it's amazing if you want to, and you wipe it on the surface, and it's just glass smooth. It's pretty cool.
okay.
But that's the type
This-
of that's a what when I was growing up, we just called it gym floor finish, but that was basically tongue oil. That's all it was, and mineral spirits.
interesting. That's like one of the more random things that I know. So it's like this
Yeah.
was like another one. I was volunteering at like an Audubon society.
Mhm.
So one of the things they were like talking about was like nature conservation. But like some of the facts, I was like, really? So apparently animal crackers, it was one of the I think it was nuts that the natives were eating. It's actually used to make animal crackers. I'm just like,
Wow,
it's just trippy.
that is a lot.
Just like you see that's animal crackers. Just like, wow.
Animal crackers in the making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So, to finish her sentence that she finished for
Yes.
the Google or doodle for Google
Mhm.
was, "I care for myself by letting other people care for me." And I think that's sweet. And it says, and this is what she said. She says, "It's just amazing to know you still have people supporting you, and you don't need to try to do everything on your own."
Right.
Yeah. So
It's
that's kind of sweet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And just to remind you that you're not alone. We all do life together, and you can,
Right.
we're all in this battle
Right.
together. Yeah.
Your life is,
Sweet.
you're not an island, right?
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
And it's that mystical, magical time once again. I want to remind you, too, that today's show is brought to you by Sailfish Roofing, a community roofing company that you can count on for repairs or replacing a roof. Give them a call at 263-ROOF. And we'll be right back.
We are back. It's great to be back. Thank you for listening and taking that wonderful break with us. John, do you have anything or please?
Well, not in particular. No, I do not.
Mr.
Okay,
Frank,
this is really coming down. Okay.
Right. Well, we're gonna. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna talk a little bit about the comment that the governor made called "Florida's where woke goes to die." And I think that's pretty interesting. But before we do that, we're going to take one more break and get this commercial. And this was an important commercial, should have been part of the last break. We'll be right back. Today's show was pre-recorded.
And we are back. That was a nice commercial.
Yeah. So now we're going to play this little snippet from Governor Ron DeSantis. Go ahead, Governor. Maybe not.
Yes.
Everyone knows after a car accident.
Oh, my God. But first, this commercial break.
We're getting rickrolled so hard today.
Don't you hate when that happens? So let's see if that. Come on, skip.
All right.
There we go.
Perfect.
Is the state, is the place where woke goes to die. We are not going to let this state